Welcome, everyone. I'm Dr. Paul Goodman. A lot of people call me Dr. Nacho. I have this whole logo here in the back, and I'm excited to be talking with Dr. Lois Chen, who I had the chance to meet at the Greater New York Dental Meeting, which was a lot of fun. He had the monumental task of running their social media. So I like origin stories. Lois, tell us a little about what your role was at the Greater New York Meeting there when we met.
Yeah, so I started. Basically, I had a couple of colleagues who are in the industry, and then they were looking for someone who could help improve the social media for Greater New York Dental Meeting. And one of my good friends, one of my great colleagues, said, "You know what? Try it out. It seemed like you can maybe improve it and get some new traction." So I said, "Okay, sure, why not?" And then as soon as I started doing it, people were like, "Yeah, I'll see you there," because a lot of dentists follow one another on Instagram and social media, and then eventually they kind of say, "Oh, I'll be there, I'll see you there," and then eventually you just start walking around, and people pop in and say, "Hey, you know what? I've been talking to you online," and it's interesting to just create this kind of collaborative environment.
I think that's awesome what you did there, Lois. And I know we're going to dig into some of the things we're going to talk about, but even just last night, we were on this group here talking about how we could get more young dentists to local study clubs. So, see something I've been passionate about and been running for 12 years. I run different events where I bring dentists from all over the country, but I still like local study clubs. And I do not run really a traditional local study club because they're usually run by dentists between ages 50 and 60, and they need a Lois to help them with social media. So, I think, it's an awareness thing. I don't know, did you ever see the movie Chef with Jon Favreau? I don't know if you've seen it. It's a great movie and it's a real feel-good movie, but it was actually when Twitter was super popular and he was running one of those, mobile chef carts. He was a fancy chef and he did this with his son all over the country. And, they would tweet where he was and people would come running to have the food. And I think we need to apply that to the local study clubs because there's such a great opportunity for young dentists to meet medium-aged and more seasoned dentists, but I think they just don't know it's out there. So they need to do that. So let's bring up our PowerPoint. We have some stuff to discuss here today. I appreciate your feedback. You can skip over that one there. Very good. Okay, so we're going to talk about how to succeed as a young practice owner to be and how you can use social media to help you with Dr. Paul and Dr. Lois. You can go ahead there. If you have any questions on the Zoom link that you're on, just email farah@dentalnachos.com. And you can ask some questions on Facebook Live or via Zoom, and we'll bring them into our conversation. So you can keep going there. Very good. So, Lois, I call myself a medium-aged dentist. You are a young dentist, and I follow you on Instagram, and I'm impressed by all the energy you have. Tell us a little bit about your young day in the life of Lois as a young, energetic dentist, whether it's inside dentisting or outside. For me, from the get-go, starting, when I was in college, dental school was just something that I thought I would probably get into. I was an econ major in college, and it was just going to dental school was more of like a stroke of luck. My parents were like, check it out, it's a great industry to be in. And I said, this is it was the right fit for me because of what I think dentistry can provide for others. And so soon after, let's fast track. Dental school is over. I did a 2-year residency, a general practice residency at the Bronx VA. And, oh, nice.
Yeah, and then I did 2 years there. 1 year was required for New York City. 2nd year was optional. So then after that, and that's pretty much what I do. I've been working maybe almost every day for a long time, many, many years since college. You and I talked about this yesterday. If there's something that we're not doing, this is some sort of anxiety. So for me, young dentist lifestyle, some people are comfortable. And I'm just not very much that kind of guy who is interested in being comfortable yet.
Yeah. Now tell me, you said something interesting there. And one of the things, so I went to dental school in the olden days. It finished in 2002. So back then, and I say in my lectures, if your 4 friends couldn't help you with your dental problem or your life problem, you were out of luck because, there's no Facebook, no Instagram, no Twitter. So one of the things I like to create is awareness, though, about options after dental schools to talk about. So tell us about that 2 years at the Bronx VA, what type of procedures you did, what you learned. I did a 2nd year. I actually did a 3rd year at Albert Einstein. So we're kind of kindred spirits there. So how is the first year different from the second? I know people would like to know about that.
Yeah, I think it's not a standard route that people take. People will usually go into residency and say, I just want to be out and make some money, right?
Yeah.
GA was dubbed to be one of the better kind of residencies for general practice. The scope of work I did was include like everything, including implant surgery, sinus lifts, full mouth reconstructions, cosmetics, endo. Basically, this is a one-stop shop for everything other than ortho and peds. So it was pretty nice to be under the wings of the Bronx VA. And first year, usually people think that for 1 year is enough. 1 year is only good for kind of improving your hand skills and being fast, but not really understanding dentistry still. Because I feel like 1 year is only good for you to start, like people's focus is really on how much can I do 1 year so I can go to private practice and be fast. Second year, I had the option to be in a second year, and I said to myself, I think second year would be great because this is when I've kind of improved on my hand skills, my speed, my quality. Now I have to focus on execution. Like, can I troubleshoot problems? I think second year was the best time because it allowed me to troubleshoot a lot of the things, a lot of the problems that I would have never seen, like full mouth reconstructions. Let's say, if you're using mostly internal connection implants and you're like 10 of them, like how do we verify, so forth. Nothing that first year can do because first year you still have rotation. You do a couple of rotations here, you do a couple of rotations there, and it's just time away from clinic. So second year was full on immersion in the industry and what these full mouth reconstructions and surgeries. And I think in the second year, it's really what you make out of it because there's lots of oversight. You can do what you want to do. The attendings kind of take care of it, kind of know your quality and know what your interests are, and you could take it from there.
I mean, that's great content. I mean, I appreciate you sharing. There's so many valuable things there that I'd like to just review for people listening, for young dentists deciding what to do. And I mean, I'm a big into, I talk with patients about choosing from a menu. I even make jokes like, hey, what do you want to order? An implant over denture, a fixed case, because we love eating at restaurants. And, I think students just aren't totally aware of what's out there in their dental schools and bring awareness to it because extractions and surgical procedures are going to become a bigger part of what general dentists do.
Right.
And for extractions, to me, are the toughest thing to practice in private practice because a patient can lose confidence easily in you, even when nothing goes wrong. So, it's very funny. I mean, patients give specialists a lot more leeway. It's a tough tooth for a specialist to take out when it takes 40 minutes. You stink, it's like it's the same tooth. And even in different age dentists, I practiced with my dad for many years, which was just fantastic before he passed away. And he was in the Air Force and he learned a lot of extractions there and he loved doing them. And we had a patient his age. And I said, Dad, it's too tough an extraction. Send him to an oral surgeon. You're going to struggle with it. I'm not going to do it. You don't do it. He goes, I want to try. And he had a good relationship with him. And I walked into the operatory after 48 minutes. He had the tooth out. And I looked at the patient and the patient says, oh, your dad will never be defeated by a tooth because he thought he was like a superhero. Yeah. But if you're a young dentist, the patient's like, oh, this person doesn't know what they're doing, even though it's the same procedure. So that perception is tough. So I think, and then also what you talked about having attendings to watch over you. I've used this example is that you go get a haircut and midway through your stylist brings in another stylist to finish it. You're like, oh man, that did not go well.
Right.
I want it to turn out well. But in GPRs or AGDs, it's supposed to be that way. And the patient's expectations are managed. So thanks for sharing that. Barry, you can bring the PowerPoint back up for us to take a look at some of the things we're going to chat about. Okay, you keep clicking through this. Good. So some objectives I had for us, Lois. Actually, this is an ode to you here, Lois. So I always see you at the gym working out. I'm impressed. So this is my daughter who was, striking a Lewis pose here. Explore the options for a dentist when they graduate after dental school. You can go through all of them. Share the challenges that a young dentist face in the real world of dentisting, how social media can help you as a new dentist generally promote yourselves to a wider audience, the road to practice ownership, and giving back by teaching the dental students and residents. So these are kind of the themes that I came up with, would be, so as a young practice owner to be, you can keep going there. Tell me a little bit about, I know you're going through this journey, Lois, so share with us a little about some of the things you're experiencing.
Yeah, I mean, it's a couple of things is like lifestyle choices. I mean, when you're trying to start your own practice, you have to think about, you got to first think about yourself, your personal expenditure habits. Some people are more spend a lot more money. They're not very budget conscious. So what happens is that they overspend on equipment. They spend too much, and what happens is that you cut into your own personal liquid capital. What I realized is that debt is a choice. I think it's a philosophy. I personally think that debt is good because it allows for more opportunities later should you decide to reinvest in something like a practice or in stock options or mutual funds, so on and so forth. You need to have that kind of capital, right? So some people are not thinking down that route, like retirement and so on and so forth. So what they do is they blow the money elsewhere, right? So I think that when we start to learn that to save money, then I think we'll learn to actually appreciate debt a little bit better. I mean, even from a practice standpoint, debt is a good thing because if you blow off your liquid capital, liquid assets, there's no way you can get any sort of loan from the bank, at least from my perspective.
I mean, it's a great lesson. I mean, it's like, someone gives me 100 nachos, I'm going to eat all those nachos. But if you give me 80, I might not notice. And you need to apply that to your lifestyle as well as your dentist lifestyle, because everybody would love to have some of the latest and greatest equipment. And, people say, which scanner should I buy when I start my practice? And I always say, no scanner yet, because sometimes you cannot get that money back when it's sitting in a piece of equipment in your operatory. If it's what you do all the time, like implants, you definitely should get a CBCT if you're going to open a practice, because you're going to be an implant person. But sometimes dentists, just like 4-year-olds, can get into a lot of toys that you wind up, regretting. So I think that's a great message. Farrell, keep us going. But we have a message here from or we have some people watching online here with us. Okay, perfect. Oh yeah. So Mitchell Rubenstein's with us. He's a New York guy like you. So you can add some questions there, Mitch and on. So thanks, guys. So tell us a little about risk tolerance.
Risk is, it's same with your sort of your philosophy on debt. Some people can take on a lot more risk, like high risk tolerance. So what I personally, in my experience, what I did was I just decided to go right in, and during residency, I started my own private practice. I rented some space out to just kind of learn. So I did spread myself thin. I was, teaching at Columbia. I was having my private practice and trying to learn everything at the same time, still be 100% committed to the residencies. It was like a lot of time. So for me, my risk tolerance was very high because I realized that my return would be greater if I put in extra time. So, but that's not to say not everyone is like that, right? Some people are a little bit more low risk tolerance. And but in my opinion, I think that you just gotta sometimes just take it easy, take the time, no rush, because sometimes being being rushed can lead to wrong decisions or mistakes. And so I in my opinion, it's part of some interest. Learn how to do things before you start. In my opinion, I just had a great mentor. So I kind of had, the experience to, ask questions, see if I'm doing things the right way. And if I weren't doing it the right way, I had to figure it out. So that's why I think tolerance is really important, because not everyone will want to own a practice. And it's just a personal choice as well.
Yeah.
Some people being associates, and that's fine, because there's a lot of, I have to say now, because I was thinking about being an associate for a period of time. Then I realized, and I started, this route of trying to become a practice owner, and there's a lot more work that needs to be done.
Yes.
So like 100%, 10 times more work.
I always say that, it's like being a parent versus an aunt or uncle. So an aunt or uncle, you can hand the child back and say, here you go. That's sure. We have multiple fantastic associates. It's also just that when you're a practice owner, your brain has to be thinking about the clinical, what's going on outside the operatory. And I encourage young dentists to really just be as comfortable as possible with their clinical skills, because if you have stress clinically and practice management and business, it just could be a lot on one person. And it's my message with doing GPRs and AGDs too. And I know it's always the older guy message or the 40-year-old, 41-year-old guy, but you have your whole life to own a practice. And you want to get in a situation that's good for you, because it's very hard to undo. So you cannot return a practice, I always say. Like, you can't return a practice, can't return a child. These are big decisions. can't return a house. And I think what you said about mentorship is important. And what I encourage dentists, young dentists to do is find as many resources as possible. I love the word mentor, but it's a loaded word. If someone said, I'm your mentor, it's a big relationship, where resources is just sort of, hey, go meet other dentists. Many dentists will let you observe at their office. You're going to be coming to Philadelphia to join us for one of our young dentist groups. And we just had Dr. Carl Steinberg, who's active in this group. And he is a seasoned dentist. I won't reveal his age, but he's more than medium. And he's just awesome. And he did this cool thing at the group meeting. He invited everyone to come to one of his office meetings. Just say, hey, you want to come to one of my team meetings? Just come and hang out. We'll feed you and show you what we do. And that's just a resource. So I encourage dentists to, talk to each other more, get out there and do that. So Farrell, I'll bring up the next one. So thanks for sharing that, Lois. Let's see what else we got on our agenda here. Perfect. You can go to a couple next things. Okay. You could put them all up at once. Perfect. So we talked about mentorship, finding mentors. How did you find your mentor?
I found my mentor when I was in dental school. He basically changed my whole philosophy on, I guess, dentistry. Like for me, it was like, he said it best to me when I was a student. He said, in dental school, you have to be the best. You have to put in the time and learn everything the hard way before you cut corners. I mean, as a faculty member now, I see it so often that students kind of just trying to cut corners too early without learning how to cut corners first.
Yes.
Well, I learned that much very early on. It said, if I'm paying the same amount of money to go to school, I'm spending the same amount of time like anyone else is. Why would I be wasting my time cutting corners and thinking just so I can get out of clinic early, start my day, start my night a little early with maybe some Netflix or whatnot, right? So
Yeah.
for me, I dedicated my time to being good at my craft. I spent the time learning stuff, learning information, applying it. And I think the key to being a great clinician is through application. So, and then most importantly, mentors are, like you said, it's a loaded word. It depends on what your goal is. I mean, there are many kinds of mentors. There are, practice ownership mentors. There are like your, parents are mentors. It's first define your goal, because it helps streamline, your search for a mentor and the qualities that you're looking for that aren't in your alignment. Because if you have mentors that don't see eye to, you don't have mentors that see eye to eye, then, it creates conversation, but sometimes you don't know what the right answer is, right?
Yeah, I mean, those are great points to bring next up, Farrah. But I always tell the young dentists, have your ideas willing to be disrupted in a kind way, whether it's about, hey, you can only take closed or open tray impressions. Learn, I'm a parent. We have two small humans living in our house, a 4-year-old and a 5-month-old. And we bought a lot less stuff for the second baby, because the first baby, we need everything. But we go to people and say, hey, do I need this? Whether it's a toy, a sleep aid. And wise, smart people learn from their own mistakes, but wise people learn from the mistakes of others. And you would put, I think of you as a super positive guy, Lois, and a great role model, but dental school still did get to you. It infected you, because people learn from your failures. But when I do a lot of stuff on the whiteboards and drawing, and people have called me like a Bob Ross type guy. I don't know if you know who he is. And he does not say mistakes or failures. He says happy accidents. So I like that term. I'm just saying that dental school, one of my jokes in all my lectures is, we tell people that their bridge failed or that their crown failed, and it's just not the right word. Instead of saying, hey, your crown needs to be replaced, because no one goes to a car dealership and said, hey, take this car away, it has failed. So I think dental school is a tough job, because it's got a lot of new dentists there, but I would just love if some of the vibe would just shift a little bit from focusing on what goes wrong as opposed to focus on what goes right.
You're right. I mean, I think it's also a personality. I think that it's like soft skills, right? It's not something that comes naturally to people. It requires a little bit more experience, or I guess your own personal interest. Like for me, when I was getting into dentistry, I realized the impact that dentistry can have on people. It's like a social industry. And for me, I found that every single day, every patient would be another opportunity for me to create relationships, to break down the doctor-patient barrier. And for me, I wanted to connect with patients instead of being a clinician, because it's a perspective shift. So once I shifted my perspective and mindset, then you can start to, speak to them a little differently. Like you said, that you can't say a crown failed. Sometimes I would reword it and, twist it so it's an optimistic outcome.
Yeah, I mean, I'll give you, well, you got to go back in dentist this afternoon. So I encourage you to try this out, Lois, and see how it changes the vibe. So Mitchell Rubenstein told us that he liked that we said that, mentorship is a loaded word and resources is something we could use because, just say find some dental resources. But I got Dr. Chance Bodini, who helps me a lot of this. He's a great young dentist from LA, George Hariri in Arizona. I'm collecting all of you guys so you take care of me when I'm older and bring me to my old age home. Just say, okay, we're here. But the reason I reached out to you guys, and you guys have been great people to connect with, and George had said this, is I encourage you to try this. Somebody comes in, crown's broken, fillings, not even one that you did. And I find out as quickly as possible how long ago it was done. And when they say, oh, I think 11 years ago, I said, it's great. You got 11,000 meals out of that crown because we beat 1,000 meals a year, and it changes the vibe. It's the soft skills that you spoke about. One thing that I'll chime in with here, I think you would like, and I have to give my associate Evan and friend credit for sharing this show with me. Have you seen 7 Days Out or 7 Days Away on Netflix?
No, I haven't. No. What's it about?
It's phenomenal. So Danny Meyer, who wrote Setting the Table, I really like that book. Great customer service book. He made Shake Shack. So this is 7 Days Out is the best restaurant in New York in the world, 11 Madison Park. And it talked about when they shut everything down this summer and then redid it. And the chefs are there, and the chef and the front of the house guy is just wonderful for a dentistry. It's a 7 Days Out, or it might be called 7 Days Away on Netflix, is great. And it talks about, one thing that I think dental students don't totally understand, and I encourage them to come to our practice, is when things are going well in a dental practice, it still seems very chaotic, right? It's like, you got people coming, going, and I think in dental school, you think, oh, when I get into private practice, things are going to go so perfectly, right? And you probably know that that's not the case.
No way.
And I think I was a restaurant server for 12 years, and I actually believe that trained me to be very calm when things go. If I say a lot of things go wrong in my practice, it's another loaded term. What goes wrong? Crowns don't fit. I just say a lot of things go annoying, right?
Yeah.
Patients don't show up on time. Somebody gets sick. Something happens with me. I have to be in two places at once. You can bring the next part up for us. So we'll talk a little bit more here about a couple things, Lois, and then we'll talk about when you're coming to visit us in Philadelphia. Farrah, you can keep going through a couple of these things for us here. Let's shift gears and talk a little bit about social media, because I know you're the guru. I have to give my wife Mary and Farrah credit, but Mary, we were at the New York meeting and was watching. He said, this Lois has a great Instagram page. We should try to meet him. And Farrah reached out to you, and I appreciate you coming to the Nacho booth. So tell us just a little bit about your journey with Instagram or other social media things, and how dentists could use that, young dentists, for themselves, for their patients. I'll let you tell us about that.
So I think when you approach it, it's most people approach it on a more personal basis. And I think you have to first know your goals are. For me, I wanted to be, like a healthcare professional. But at the same time, for me, I think that doctors are humans too. I mean, I never really call myself Dr. Chen, Dr. Lewis, whatever. I always call myself Lewis because I just like getting to know people. So I think it's really helps display your character. It just shows that you're not sitting on a pedestal, and you're really connecting with others and really trying to share your experience and your time and your knowledge with others. For me, I think that's great because it shows, what kind of a practitioner that you are and your philosophy. So from my point of view, my philosophy was geared towards mentorship, inspiration, being able to lead others, and being as open as I can.
That's great. I mean, and I think, I work with Rob Montgomery in our podcast of the Dental Amigos, and we do a lot with acquisitions and startups. And, it's both can be good paths, but especially with startups. And we had Desiree Yazd in our podcast and an event like this, who does some amazing stuff, especially with startups, or even if you're an associate in a practice, you have this free forum to share genuinely about yourself that other people don't have, that older dentists can't even master, right? Even me. And I think it's a cool thing. I mean, it's all good. And it's just, someone like you is someone who has really been a leader and can kind of, explain or just say, like, you're not going to show 10 before and afters in a row of fancy cases. I was looking through your Instagram site and I saw you said, I haven't shown a case in a while. Here's a case. But then you show yourself, working out, or you show yourself having fun or challenges. And I think that's a way for young dentists to attract other patients that are like them. And Desiree's talked about this. So I encourage, dental students and residents and associates also when you're hired for a job, and I know you've been on interviews and we talk about this with the residents who are coming later today for a lecture, anything that can set yourself apart in the job application process is a good thing. And, being able to run the office Instagram account might be a carrot, or I call a nacho carrot, for that, owner to want to hire you. In your office, do you do the office Instagram account too for the office, or does someone else do that?
Currently, we don't have an Instagram account. Just kind of sometimes people find me and they siphon into the practice that associate that, so it works out. But it's nice because it shows you where you're, like, for instance, like most patients will know where you are, New York, New Jersey, and people will refer their friends, colleagues to this individual because you're available. But most importantly, to be engaged. I think that sometimes when you're engaged with the audience, they, again, like, it goes out to the first point, displays your character, like displays who you are as an individual, and whether or not that's in alignment with the patient's interests and their personal pursuits for a dentist. And now if those two align, then you've created a great patient relationship. So I think that using social media is great for that, as well as, again, displaying, the kind of work that you can do. For instance, if you are more of a surgeon, you can do more surgical cases. I think the trend now is more cosmetics. I think that I have my own 2 cents about cosmetics, but that's why I think I stayed away from the social media posting of cases, because I think that the cosmetic industry is going to be saturated very quickly. So
and it's also you keep going a little bit. All right. I think it's funny is that Facebook got a lot of flack for saying people would only show their fun stuff and make sure their life looks so good. And there's been some dentists that Josh Austin wrote one, and Aaron Elliott was sharing. And I think sometimes you could get like this dental inferiority complex. So I think it's like, make sure you realize that might just be one or two of the best cases. And I actually would love if dentists showed more of challenging cases or happy accidents, because you learn from that. So, I think that's something to keep in mind, or even in your Instagram story. I do see dental students, they're pretty adept with it. In their stories, they're actually posting a lot of funny stuff that went awry in dental school, and I enjoy reading that.
Yeah, no, that's true. It's interesting. Yeah, but it's all very true. I think that a lot of people don't really share their failures because of the stigma of failing. Yeah. But I actually, in my opinion, like, failures is where you learn everything. So I actually prefer not to share my successes, to share my failures and what I learned from it that I could gain and implement in my life. So or even like in patient care, like what I did wrong, could I have done things better, and how can I do it better? Even though you're trained for so long, for so many years, whether you're seasoned, middle, young, dental student, whatever, if you don't look back at what you've done and try to make like any sort of correction to it, it's gonna become a habit. It's like anything else. Like, excellence is a habit, poor work's a habit, attitude's a habit. Everything's a habit if you make it a priority.
Yeah, no, I agree. Click through a few more there, Farron. Also, it's like, I just posted a case on dental nachos. I was mentoring our associate. We're doing a 6-unit upper implant case, and patient was in, and I said, let's just take closed tray impressions and a stock tray. And I said, it's going to be it's not going to be a great impression, but it's a starter impression. And I kind of did a thing for dental nacho. They said, do I stink or am I smart for taking this impression? And obviously people maybe like you, or I know that later I'm going to do a verification jig, pick it up in an open tray. So I know that I've started the case off in the right way, but other people say I would never do that. And I just think that is the one, I mean, you see it at the VA and I saw it at Einstein. What doctors have their own challenges and their industry has challenges, but what they really just are great at is being in the same location when stuff goes awry. And they'll say, oh, hey, I had a patient, we gave them this blood pressure medication, it didn't lower their blood pressure. And you would say, well, mine did. And we would share in the cafeteria. And I just wish there was more of that in dentistry.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree.
And I have a dream. Maybe you can do it, Lois. I'm too tired, but you can, careers are long and there's a lot of things that happen in them. I've incorporated periodontists, we've bought other offices. I do see the opportunity for young, motivated dentists to create a dental center, a lot like surgical off-site suites were created for plastic surgeons,
Mm-hmm.
where there would be something like 15 operatories. But when people hear this story, they want to hear like Game of Thrones, one king and everybody else working for them. And I say, no, like 4 partners working there with like 4 young dentists and being able, when I say compete against DSOs, another way too dramatic. I mean, does anybody walk into CVS and be like, curse you, CVS, you're evil?
Yeah.
So it's just that DSOs have created shifted the landscape where they've put a lot of dentists under one umbrella, whether that's in one location or multiple locations. And there's space for dentists to create a dental center. Maybe it's just in a town where there's 4 dentists working as partners with 20 operatories. But dental school sets up the dental student Hunger Games, and it continues through that. And, I've made a lot of funny rants, or I think they're funny. I don't know if other people do, about, we were going to work together, Lois, but I found out that you like shoulders and I like chamfers. Now we can never talk again, Yeah, right. It's like, I say that. So Farad, take us through towards the end. We'll let Lois get back in a minute, but I want to go over a couple things, especially I'm excited to have Dr. Lois come into Philadelphia. So click through till we get towards the 20 seconds. So we talk, perfect. Oh yeah, you go click through those. We covered most of this. So a couple things I have coming up, Lois, and that we're going to collaborate on some things is I have a live stream event on Thursday, January 31st, which I've offered to Dentists Anywhere. It's great for dentists or hygienists. But I've created this opportunity where I am now to have like Conference Room A, which is what it's called, where I have 12 live dentists, but we live stream it to everywhere over the country, the world. We've done this with this new dentist boost camp that we're watching. So, if you have followers who want to learn to talk to patients about implants or just as normal people, what I encourage young dentists to do is, you could watch it from your couch while looking at your phone eating nachos. It can't get much easier. Yeah. Have you taken any online courses like that? I'm totally curious over the past couple of years. Do you see those being offered?
I use Dental XP and learn a couple of like more complicated things that I know could exist, but something that I know. So I think the most important thing is like coming out of dental school, some people, young dentists think they could do everything, right? I don't know if you noticed that trend where people think that like, I'm a general dentist, I'm good, I'm modern, I've been taught at the best school, I can do everything under the rainbow. And then you realize that, I think that's why residency is great, because for the second year at least, it kind of you start to understand where you draw the line, right? You start a line and say, I can see the outcome, I can expect the outcome, do I want to even check it, right? And I think that's important because, that's why I look at dental XP sometimes, so like these big surgical cases looks amazing. It's not under my, control. I can't do it. I can't deliver the same outcome, but I know it exists. I know that they can be resolved.
You said something, Lois, I would just like to, because what I love about doing these Facebook Live and Zoom events is somebody's going to be watching us at 2 a.m. when they're up with their, 4-month-old, and, this will exist past us. You just said something so important. So the enthusiasm of wanting to do everything is tempered by when you try to do everything, you're like, this is not so easy. And I was that person. I was convinced in 2003, I was going to do crown lengthening, soft tissue grafts, implants, endo, throw it in. And then as I did my second and third year, I'm like, and I had a really great mentor, Dr. William Stewart, who's at LIJ or North Shore. And he said, Paul, I know you love doing this, but when you're in private practice, you're going to find it's very difficult to shift gears all the time. And it is. So that's why I lectured last night, and endodontists were there. And I was like, look how relaxed you guys are, because you offer one thing. This is a treatment planning consult, Lois. Ready?
Yeah.
Do you want the root canal or not?
Right.
End of treatment planning. So their life is like they only offer one thing, and they get good at that one thing. And just from a stress level, and I know their cases can be hard. I said to them last night, their troubleshooting is in a small circle. As a general dentist, you're troubleshooting denture, crowns, fillings. So I think the message you just gave there is just awesome, because it's enticing to want to do a lot of things. And some people say to me, I'm just going to go and do ortho. I'm like, people go to residencies for 2 and 3 years to learn that. So it doesn't mean you know ortho. It doesn't mean don't learn it. Like with implants, I'm very into my first implant. I believe everything should be do some, refer some, do some, refer some. And then if you really get into something, I don't know, someone really gets into ortho or implants or endo, they'll do more. But it's not easy to be able to do all of everything. And it's not even economically helpful to anyone. So that's a great message. And then we're going to bring up our last thing. When you're coming to see us in Philadelphia,
Yeah.
far as us. So I am like do all types of CE events. And one of the things I thought was cool is I'm starting to do the best dental CE without CE. So if you come, you don't know if you're getting CE or not. It's going to be a surprise. So we had one with Dr. Carl Steinberg and myself. We talked about leadership. And on March 22nd in Philadelphia, right in Center City, you can reach out to farrettdentalnachos.com. It's super reasonable. We're going to have Dr. Lois Chen, young dentist, doing all kinds of things with Instagram, practice ownership, learning cases, cosmetic cases, implant cases. And then I'm going to bring on stage Dr. Todd Fleischman, who's one of our new dentist boost camp instructors, who's just, you're going to love him. He is medium age like me, although he looks very young, so I'm a little jealous, but he's, you know, he is 40, and he's a practice owner in Philadelphia. He has a fee-for-service practice. He has, you know, great practice, but he will share that things aren't as easy as they always look from the outside in life and dentistry. And I'll kind of close in a minute. Like when you have kids, Lois, if you want to have kids, you will go out for Halloween. And when you bring your two daughters out for Halloween, dressed in matching outfits, people think, look at this. Life must be so great for you. Because look at these two girls who look great. They didn't see the meltdown beforehand, the bribes to put those outfits on, and all the hard work. So it's worth it. But I'm so glad to have connected with you, because we can share this story and help young dentists really be aware of this. So we're excited to have you. Thanks for being on here. Any parting words for our audience? Anything you want to share about yourself, your practice, your Instagram?
I think the most important thing for young dentists these days is just don't afraid to take risks. I think it's better to take risks early, where you have less on the line than later. And if you just, everything will work out. It just kind of has to. And you just, you know, when you get into something, it's like, you know, sometimes you just dive right into a cold pool and you kind of say, all right, you know what? I know my body will adapt to it. It's just the first like dive, like to jump in was going to suck. And I mean, I did it when I was in residency and it was like cool. And then the second time around, it's a lot less stressful because I kind of know the, you know, the system to like approach it. But even then it's still a lot of variables, a lot of things that don't go right. You have to kind of put out fires, but I find it really exciting to do that. And I think that people should find excitement in challenges. So I think on that note, I think that people should just go for it, do it, and everything it will work out. I think people are more concerned about debt. I think that people should be thinking less about that and think about more how they can protect their future.
I totally agree with that. And I would just echo and shape that as a medium age dentist, that responsible enthusiasm is great. And just like you going to the gym, and even though I have this body stuff with love as a dad now, I actually have great core strength that I developed early. So I can get back that. So I talk about developing your dentist core. And that's a big part of it, because it's responsible. It's building it responsibly. If you went to the gym and tried to bench press 300 pounds or run at 10 on the treadmill, you would hurt yourself. So it's important to do it responsibly and have enthusiasm. And a lot of it's relying on the people around you. So I'm glad for you to be part of the Nacho Plate now, Lois. And we'll see you in Philadelphia Friday, March 22nd.
You got it. I'll be there.
Thanks, Lois.
Of course. Thank you.